Take a moment to peek into the lives of inspirational people living the true definition of happiness with author, presenter, personal stylist and coach Moana Robinson, who chats to people who have overcome challenges to live their best life. Moana is a passion and purpose coach and a personal stylist who empowers others to discover their best life and style regardless of age. Here is Moana.
Hi, it's Moana Robinson here from Be Styled for Life, and I'm chatting today with Kym McAuliffe Phillips, who has written a book called Moving Made Easy, and her tagline is The Moving Angel. Welcome, Kym, and could you introduce yourself and maybe describe to the audience and the viewers how you came up with the name The Moving Angel?
Good morning, Mo. It's great to be here talking with you. Thank you so much. The Moving Angel, actually my title came from a couple of clients because that wasn't my original title. And I thought, well, if people are going to call me the Moving Angel, then I'll own that one. So my business, yes, I've had this vision for many, many years. And then after work, in the corporate world and seeing that there was a void in my industry for some different services that particularly women would like and could benefit from. After walking the Kokoda track with my dad, I was very brave and said, I'm going to make this all happen. And that's over 10 years ago now. And then during this time as well, I knew that there would be a great advantage to have a book. It's the only book for the removals industry. So it's a step-by-step guide of all my, probably 53 years that when I was born, my parents had a removal business. And I learned a lot in those early years. So I wanted to get that book out there. And that's been, it's priceless information. Mr. and Mrs. Google helps us with, different types of information, but it really digs deep into the really nuts and bolts of it all. And it's not a naming or shaming. It's a very helpful step-by-step guide.
Yeah, I've read your book. I've got some copies of it here that you left with me. And it's very, very helpful for people. Even if you're not moving, I just find it helpful for a lot of the tips, or if you've got a friend that's moving, just to wise up on some quick tips and tricks for packing and unpacking and how to get ready for your move.
And one of my favourite chapters is chapter 4, because it's all about downsizing and decluttering. And that's a good thing. Whether you're moving or not, it's good to do downsize, declutter. You're often cleaning out and things, and there's others in our group that, 80-20 rule, 80% of the time we only use 20% of what we have, but we have cupboards or rooms to put it in, so we keep it, or storage sheds some people have.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And it's really fascinating. I've always found it fascinating that, as you say, since you've been born, you've been in the moving industry because your parents had that sort of business right from the start, didn't they?
They did. My parents don't, and still to this day, I don't think they really realised how entrepreneurial and so visionary they were, because they employed women way back many years ago before it was even a thing, because the removals industry still to this day is very heavily dominated by men, but they brought women in to do, help with the packing and unpacking and have a woman around when the moves were taking place. And mum and dad had the traditional style where dad was in the field, mum was in the office. So she had all that warmth and empathy for mostly the women calling up to organise the moves, which they really loved. So they were massive trailblazers many, many years ago, but I still think now they're just too humble.
Oh, and it's wonderful that you're so close to your parents, and you and your husband just recently moved back to be closer to them, didn't you? And also to your daughter.
Look, and that's been fabulous as well. And having my business, it's a national platform. I mean, people said that you'll never be able to do it, but as soon as someone tells me I can't, I'm off and I'm doing it. I mean, back when I started my business, I'd only started it, I think, for 3 or 4 months, and then we relocated off to the Sunshine Coast. And that was really like jumping in an aeroplane, pulling the door open and flying out without a parachute and just work out how you're going to fly on the way down. That was pretty scary, and that was really brave. And at times I thought, oh, this was a silly thing to do. But I'm so glad that I've taken those huge leaps of faith. And it's interesting, I say, I'm not a risk taker, but if you look at a lot of things I've done, it's actually probably huge risk if you sat down and thought about it too much. So it's really been great to be closer not having all those distances to be with mum and dad. And they're great role models and mentors still to this day.
And does your daughter live close to them?
No, mum are in country Victoria still, in Wangaratta, where I was born. George is in Melbourne. She's just finished her 4 years, her double degree. And look, it's handy, being around your family, having them as close as you can, not all that distance for travel. It's priceless, isn't it? Those memories and the time together.
Oh, definitely. I think you are very inspiring. This is what this podcast is all about. Women sort of get to a certain age, and in some ways they develop and they do even more than they did in their younger years. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely, Mo. I've noticed a lot in my time during my life, even when I was hairdressing. I left school to be a hairdresser. That was my original dream and why. And all the ladies that I worked with were all much older than me, but the wisdom and knowledge that you learn from surrounding yourself. So I've always had a lot of older friends, maybe at least a decade or even more. And I just find, and men too, I just find that you can't put old head on young shoulders, as the old saying goes. So I find that that's really powerful, and I've just been able to learn a lot from those experiences.
Yeah, that's why I refer to it as the wisdom years, because you've had all that experience under your belt, and older and wiser. There is a lot to that as well. Can you tell us maybe about some challenges or a challenge that you've had during your career or your life that you've struggled to get through and come out the other side?
Well, there's many actually. One I can think of just in the last couple of years was becoming a published author, and you'd know because you got 2 amazing books that you've published. To be going through that with an injury, but also to fighting menopause. I'll use the word fighting. I think I might call myself the menopausal author because it's really interesting society, when you're growing up, but they talk about menopause. It's almost like, well, your life's over when you hit menopause. So sometimes in our minds we take on that negativity and what's going to happen, and trying to navigate that was really challenging. And at that particular time, I had just met yourself and the TOT group. And look, that was just so powerful for me, surrounding yourself with the right people. We're all different and in different parts of our lives, and everyone goes through things differently. It's not a one size fits all, but getting the right help from your circle, but then also externally. So I was working with a naturopath, but I can remember just starting to get into our editing phase of the book, which you know all about that. Yeah. And the publishers, and I'm doing a mentoring program as part of the publisher said, oh, well, maybe he didn't know at that time. Men sometimes they're not that interested in menopause, are they? Although they should be. We need to educate them as well, and our generations coming on, because years ago they didn't talk about it, which I don't think is helping anyone. And he said, oh, well, maybe we'll just put it on hold. No, not an option. I had a plan that my book had to be released when Dad and I had walked the Kokoda track for the 10th anniversary, and there was no way it was on hold. But honestly, sometimes I don't know how I got there, because that was very challenging. But the right people, and definitely having my amazing husband and our beautiful daughter to support me, my family, and other people in some other groups, and also yourself, like you had that serious injury that you went through. And just, I feel like when you feel like you can relate to people, that it's going to be okay. And yes, some days you'll have your pity party, but just don't live there, but have it and get over it. You sort of sometimes have to be like your own psychologist, don't you, to talk yourself through. Okay.
Yeah, you do. And if you've got friends that you trust and support people around you, family around you, that you can kind of bolster you up just on a temporary basis while you get through that difficult time, that does help a lot. But really it does come down to your own inner strength.
You're so right. You work out. I always had a plan to run a marathon. I've done 2 half marathons, so I'm pretty much saying my book is my marathon. I still have it's not a top goal to run a marathon. I might one day. I haven't given up on that, but you do have to find some real, a lot of people say, and you would have it too, I'd love to publish a book. Not many people ever do it. And now that I've lived and breathed it, I can see why. You need a lot of resilience. You need a lot of mental strength And, you know, there's some physical part of it there, but I think if you have lived through challenges, if you want something, you just find a way, Mo, to make it happen, whether that be from internally or externally.
Yeah. And I think making that declaration, I am writing a book, it's like the goal setting. When you have the I am statements, when you actually declare that you're writing a book, then you become accountable to all the people you've announced that you're writing a book to. And they all say, how's that book coming along? So you have to finish that book. It's good in a way to tell people that you're writing a book, because then you want to finish it. Especially if you have pre-sales. Did you have any pre-sales before you published?
No, we didn't do the pre-sale option.
Yeah, that was a good incentive for me, because I had already pre-sold the book to some people, and I thought, well, I've got to get it finished. Didn't want to let anyone down. Yeah, no matter what was going on in my life. So the injury that you had, that was when you were working, wasn't it?
It was. So that I can remember Brett saying to me that injury was a gift one particular day, and I went, a gift? What do you mean? He says, because I was off work for a while, and he said, well, the universe wants you to write your book now. And we had done, maybe 2 or 3 chapters, so to speak, in some way, shape or form. But now I truly believe he was right, because yes, I fell flat on my back on a concrete floor, and as I went down, I collected my hip on a kitchen bench at a client's house, and I said I was lucky I didn't break my back. I ended up with a bulging disc, 2 bulging discs, a dislocated hip and a twisted pelvis. But also too, thinking I was Superwoman and the injury would magically go away and I could just go on living life as it was. And no, and that took me a long time too. And I've only probably in the last 6 months really been accountable and responsible for getting my body to where it needs to be, and I'm in a much better space now. But if anyone knows, living with pain is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not good, and we're not Superman or Superwoman. We just need to be kinder to ourselves. So it's learning that as I get older, and they say too, you'll know, is that it's not about the book, it's the person you become after you've published. And that is so true, so true in many different aspects.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate your health. And I know that health and exercise is a big priority for you. It's one of your core values, isn't it, to keep fit and exercise?
It definitely is. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. I usually go, I mean, my average is minimum 20,000 steps a day. Not that I calculate. Actually, my phone beat me this morning, said I was at a low average this morning. So I don't listen to that too much. But I find I usually do that for my mental strength and my mental health. And physical's good too, to keep moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always, just as soon as I wake up, the first thing I think about is getting out to exercise, because you never feel bad afterwards. I don't think, do you?
No, I think I don't know about you, but I like to exercise first thing in the morning, and then it's done. It's a good start to the day. Yeah.
It's your mojo. It gets you going mentally and physically, and I feel so much more energized and invigorated. People say I'm too tired to exercise, but no, even the days when I might think I won't, and most days sometimes will have one day a week where I'll just go for a shorter walk or don't do something so physical. But yeah, you actually get energy from it. But then you have to fuel your body with the right amount of fuel to the right food. Like overeating and undereating, it's bad relationship with food, whichever way you look at it. And that's one thing that I've had to learn during menopause as well. I don't think there's enough education around that, is that I was, I get busy, and sometimes when people are busy or stressed, their tummy turns on, they got to eat, and they're eating for, self whatever. I go the other way, whereas mine sort of turned off and I get busy and I wasn't eating. I was eating good food. I wasn't eating enough and more regularly. So that's been a game changer for me to help me through this menopause phase of being able to fuel my body and mind with the right food and to eliminate. So I went through doing a food intolerance process with the naturopath, and I'd seen a naturopath most of my life. I love them because I had glandular fever and lactose tolerance as a baby. So I love the non-conventional medicine. Go to the doctor if you have to, but naturopath's my go-to. Not for everybody, but amazing results. So that has been really helpful because I don't know about some people how they think, but I felt like I was going mad in menopause, anxiety, and was just didn't feel like myself, I'll have to say.
Well, as you know, we're very lucky to have Elizabeth Taylor in our Tuesdays on Target group. So I've been to see her, and she's amazing. It's the knowledge that they have is amazing if you can find a good one. Yeah.
Yes, I found a really good one now, and I'd seen a few different, and they all helped me at that particular time. I feel you have to be ready to, Mo, to listen, to really want to take action. It's like we said about publishing a book. You say, I'm going to be a published author. Then you take the steps to do that. Sometimes I find I think, I haven't got time for that, health things, but we should, because to live longevity and be, fit and healthy and enjoy your life, you do need to, yes, keep fit and healthy, and you need to fuel your body with the right food.
Well, it's not, the old saying that it's not until you have bad health that you appreciate good health, and it's not until you lose money that you appreciate having some more comfort and finances and things like that. So it's when you have the lack, then that becomes very high on your priority. To health is number one. There's not much you can do without it. So yeah.
No, you can't go and buy it either. Like, once it's gone, but it's probably more educating around what we do in our 20s and 30s, or even into our 40s, is it comes back to bite us later. So, but I mean, you want to have fun, enjoy yourself, but it's like balancing, isn't it?
Yes. What would you say was, apart from your family, was the best way that you overcame that challenge of your injury and menopause, apart from getting healthy and getting some good health advice?
I feel accepting that you've got an injury and it's not a magic. There's no quick fix. They say back's a really hard one too, and it takes a lot of time. It's coming to terms with the injury. Okay, I've got it. Now let's work out a plan and who's going to help me to get there. And I had tried a few different things, and at different times those things were really beneficial. But we change, as we know, as we go through the next phase of that recovery. And I really feel accepted. Same as with menopause, accepting, okay, well, you're in it. And then, okay, who's going to help me to get there? And I just sort of reverted back to like, people have problems, like my clients, like they have problems when they don't like moving, they're stressed. So there's an opportunity to solve them, go and work it out. So Kym, instead of doing it for everyone else, take it on board and do it for yourself.
Isn't that always the way? We're sort of sometimes better at helping other people than we are at helping ourselves. And a psychologist said to me once that a definition of hell is being in denial of what is, what the situation actually is, and pretending or wishing or thinking that it was something different. And that's what creates that stress and anxiety. And he said that's a definition of real hell. If you've got a color and you're trying to say that it's white when it's really black, or the opposite, then you're never going to win. It's not going to change because you want it to be something different. So you've just got to change your thinking around it.
Definitely the mindset and having the right people, because I'm really visual, and we know, over time, if you go to the physio chiropractor or something, they're just going, and I feel like at times there was just this Band-Aid fixing. There wasn't the right people to say, this is what's going on, this is what you need to do to achieve the outcomes. You just felt like you were on a hamster on a wheel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you really have to, and it's not a one size fits all, but then also mentally accepting that that's where your body is at that time. And then once you've done that, well, then it's much easier to navigate the rest of it. But getting, someone explaining things. Like I had my client last week, I'm working on Love's Sunshine Coast at the moment. Something they asked me, and I could see when I looked. But then if you break it all down into more perhaps simplified terms, and don't talk up here too logistically, that maybe some of my other team will understand, is then being able to explain why and how, and then the outcome that comes with that.
Yes. Yep. So true. So true. Yeah, the how and the why, and just understanding. And I think, like with ourselves, it's having that self-awareness. Once you've got the self-awareness, then you can work with whatever challenges you have. And I always like to talk about the definition of happiness: someone to love, something meaningful to do, and something to look forward to. Can you expand on those a little bit? Obviously, you've got your beautiful family, your husband and your daughter, and parents that you love. And you do it, I presume you feel as though you're doing something very meaningful for your clients. Is there anything in particular that you are also looking forward to?
Just every day waking up and being fit and healthy, and really grateful and grounded for and humble for the life that I feel very much blessed with, in a way. That, yeah, because there's a lot of people that's struggling, and in, it's like when people compare success. Well, I never compare myself to anyone else. I love being me because everyone else is taken. So I just feel every day you wake up and I'm excited. Okay, what's today going to bring? And I like doing new things. Just last week, I'd always want to go on an electric scooter, so I've ticked that off my list. And just little things, the little simple things in life is what I love. And yes, it's really nice to have people that love you and you love them, and just those really, and the time together is priceless. And yes, I love living my why with my business. And yeah, just I think the gratitude for living in the moment, that every minute counts, and live every day and enjoy the best life. As you say, live your best life now, which
Yes.
I love. I often say that to all my friends, and I tell Georgia that all the time as well.
Yes, yes. I think there's no time like the present to live your best life. And if anyone's thinking of starting up a business later in life, like we are later in our lives and we've got our own businesses, have you got any advice for any women thinking of doing something a bit different?
Well, I probably went about it all the wrong way, but I learnt a lot from it. So yeah, not long after starting the business, then we moved states and then moved again. Surround yourself with the right people. There's a lot of dream takers out there. There's a lot of people that don't want to see people be successful. I just think having the right people around you that inspire you, that, yeah, if you're having a bad day, you can give them a call and they can navigate through. Also being able to relate to people. We're all very different human beings, but just that sense of knowing that you have that feeling of being able to, like when I met you, I knew that you'd had that injury and I had an injury, and you'd published your first book. And I thought, well, this is doable because Mo's done it. Not comparing your injury or that injury or your book or anything. It was just the relatability to each other, that you knew that it would be okay, that someone has your back. There's few things. Be brave. Georgia often says be brave. Like, what's the worst thing? You go into business or publish or whatever you do, and it doesn't it's not roses and sunshine all every day, and it doesn't tick all the boxes that you want. But then you've done it, and you tick it off your list, because we know what's the worst thing of left wondering, oh, what if I had tried that, or what would that be like? Yeah.
Definitely. Very wise words. And I'm so pleased that I met you, Kym, and I'm so pleased that you're part of Tuesdays on Teta, even though it's at a distance, and you come online sometimes. We love having you. Thank you so much for taking a moment with me today.
Thank you, Mo. It's been lovely having a chat to you, and I always love seeing all your beautiful smiling faces.
Thank you for listening to Take a Moment with Moana Robinson. Remember to visit her website, bestyledforlife.com.au, and book a time for a further conversation.